everybody, and welcome to another episode. Today I thought I would just take a few minutes to show the starting procedure on several different models of chainsaw. You could consider this sort of a video for beginners, or just if you're having to go to a different kind of saw that you're not used to. Maybe you bought a used saw or you borrowed one from somebody and you don't have the owner's manual for it. We're going to go over hot and cold start procedure for several different saws, and we're going to start with a representation of Stihl here with this little MS-170. Most newer Stihl saws have the same type of control here. We're going to start with cold start here. All the way up is off. Okay, first click down is your normal run position, and it won't really let you go any further until you squeeze and hold the trigger, and you push all the way down to get to choke. Now you would use choke if the motor is cold. That's a cold start. So choke it, pull the starter rope until the engine fires off for just a second. It'll just bark off and then shut back off. At that point, do not keep pulling the rope while it's on choke. Go up one notch, and that puts it in fast idle. The choke is off, but what it's doing is it's holding the throttle open just a little bit. So now you can pull it until it starts and runs. Now, but be careful, because if you don't have your chain brake engaged, when you start it up in fast idle, the chain will start spinning. So just be aware of that. And if you do have the chain brake engaged, you'll want to immediately release that so that you don't burn up your clutch. After that, once you pull the trigger, you'll notice the control goes back up to normal position, and then it will idle normally. Warming up a saw, it's very important that you don't just start it up and then, on a cold engine, don't just start it up and then immediately go, wide open into the wood. You want to let them warm up a little bit. The reason for that is if you just go wide open throttle for extended periods of time, like if you're cutting straight from a cold engine, you can cause what's called a cold seizure. And what happens there is the piston is heating up and expanding faster than the cylinder can heat up and expand, and that's bad. So what you want to do is, goose it a few times, but then just let it idle for 30 seconds, a minute, something like that, and give everything time to warm up equally. Okay, so let's say you're done cutting for a few minutes. Shut it off. Let's say you need to move some limbs or walk to the next tree you're cutting. Alright, now the engine is warmed up, but we want to crank it back up. So now you want to do the hot start procedure. I've seen a lot of people just turn it back to normal run and try to crank it, and sometimes that does work, but other times you'll be pulling on the thing all day and it won't fire. The correct way to do that is to go all the way down the choke again, but we're not going to pull the rope while it's on choke. We're going to go all the way down and then back up to put it in fast idle. So on your hot start, you're just going to fast idle. You're not going to pull the rope while it's in choke. Now you pull the rope, it should start on the first pull or at least second. And then once you pop the trigger, it goes back to regular idle. And again, all the way up is off. Okay, now let's look at another saw. Okay, here's a representation of a lot of Husqvarna models that are out there now. This particular model is a 445, and again this one has a sort of similar combined choke and kill switch lever, but it works completely differently from the Stihl. On this one, if I push down, you'll notice it's spring loaded. That's your shut off engine stop position. You would just push down and hold until it stops. Okay, now cold start procedure for this one. This one has a primer bulb, so you would prime it, 4, 5, 6 times to get the air out of the fuel lines. And this one also has a decompression button, so you need to push that in. Now, how to work the choke stop lever. On this one, you pull out and go up to put it in choke. Now you're ready to pull it until it barks over. Once again, do not keep pulling after it does that, you'll flood it. So you have it in choke, you've pulled it, it barked off one time, click down. Now the choke is off, but you're in fast idle. So once again, pull until it starts. If the chain brake is not engaged, chain will start spinning. Once you pop the trigger, you don't see anything happen with the lever, but you might have heard a click, and that is the fast idle releasing and going back to normal idle. Hot start procedure on this saw. Simply go up and then down, because once again we're not going to try to crank it in choke while the engine is warm. That will cause it to flood. But we need to put it in fast idle. So to get the fast idle, we have to go up to choke and then right back down without touching the trigger, because if you do, it takes it off of fast idle. So just out, up, down to go to fast idle for a hot start on this particular style of Husqvarna. Alright, let's check out another one. Here I have my trusty Echo CS400. Procedure is a little different, but the controls are a little different, but you'll come to realize that no matter what control layout they have, you're basically trying to accomplish the same thing every time. Okay, this one has just a little metal toggle switch for your kill switch. Up is run, down is stop. Okay, cold start procedure. Flip it on. You have a primer bulb here. Pump that. Your choke is right here. Pull that out. Pull the rope till it barks off. Push the choke back in. Pull until it fires. Pop the trigger to go back to regular idle. Let it warm up, and then you're ready to cut. Hot start procedure. Simply go on. You shouldn't have to prime it again. And in this one, to get it to fast idle, we have to pull the choke out and then right back in. Now you're in fast idle. It'll be easier for it to start that way as opposed to not starting with fast idle. Okay, another style you may encounter on a lot of Husqvarnas and a lot of Polands, you'll find a separate kill and choke. This one also has a primer bulb. Up is on, down is off, but you'll notice on these Husqvarnas equipped with this style, as well as the Polands equipped with this kind here, if you pull the choke out, it automatically flips the switch to run. That way, you don't forget to turn the switch to the run position, and you're just pulling like heck and doing nothing but flooding it. So there's your cold start procedure on that. Simply pull the choke out. It's going to turn the switch on anyway. Prime it, and again, this one has a decompression valve, so you want to push that in, pull until it pops off. When it does that, the decompression valve will normally close, so before you go back to pull again with the choke off, you will need to push the decompression button in again. Okay, so push the choke back in again, pull until it's running, pop it to release the fast idle. I want to goose it a few times just to get things going in there, and then let it idle for a minute to warm up. And when you're ready to shut off, just do that. Now, hot start procedure on this saw. Push your decompression in, choke out, then right back in. Now you're in fast idle, ready to start. It should start on the first pull or the second. Now let's look at an older style. Okay, here's an example of an older style saw that has all the controls separated. This is a Homelite XL12, and cold start procedure on this one. Kill switch to the run position, which is up. This spring-loaded button right here is your fast idle, and what you do is put a little pressure on that, pull the trigger, you'll notice it goes in, let go of the trigger while you're still holding the button, and then once you let go of the button, it'll stay in. And over here you have your choke. So now you're ready for cold start. This one does not have a primer bulb, it does not have a decompression valve. All you got to do now is pull until it pops off, choke back in, pull it until it runs, and as soon as you pull the trigger, it pops out of fast idle. Now there are several different ways that this can be arranged. Some saws have the button on the side here, some have it on top, and you either push it down or pull it towards you while holding the trigger. Just different ways to accomplish the same thing. So hot start on this one, pretty simple. Flip it to run, fast idle, crank it, leave the choke alone. One more type that you may encounter is a saw like this Homelite Super 2 that does not have any way of putting it in fast idle other than you just holding the trigger down. I don't know if you can see with the bad lighting in here, but here's your choke control right here. All the way up is choke, and then it's got like a half choke position that kind of serves as your next step after you after it's fired off on full choke. You would go to half choke, pull until it runs, and then let it warm up a minute, and then go all the way down. Obviously kill switch has to be in the run position, but in this particular case, normally the safe way to start a saw is with your foot through with the saw on the ground, your foot through the back of the handle, left hand pushing down on the handlebar, start it with your right hand. But on this kind of saw, you actually, since you don't have a fast idle lock, you have to hold the trigger and start with your left hand. But I don't think that many saws nowadays are made like this. You would only really encounter that if you got something older like this. Okay, now just for giggles, I'm going to show you one more. This is my Husqvarna 262 XP. This one does have a decompression valve. You can't see it right now because it's over on the right side of the cylinder. No primer bulb on this one either. Real simple. Your kill switch is right here. Go that way to put it in run, and There's your choke, which also triggers your fast idle. Now we're in the cold start ready position. Decompression valve in, switch on, choke out, pull until it barks off, push the choke in. You'll probably have to hit the decompression again, pull until it goes, and then pop the trigger to release it from fast idle. Go to shut off, move some limbs, whatever. I'm going to start it back up, flip on again, choke out, then right back in. That puts us in fast idle, decompression in, pull until it fires. Now we're ready to go. And I've seen a lot of people struggle with cranking a saw, not knowing the right procedure. Your saw should start really easily every time. If you're having to pull and pull and pull and pull, there's either something wrong with your saw or it's something you're doing wrong. Again, sometimes they'll start hot without using the fast idle, but sometimes they don't, and you don't want to be wasting your energy pulling on that starter rope all day when you could just engage fast idle and pull once or twice and there it goes. Now, of course, a saw that is not equipped with a primer bulb will take more pulls for a cold start than one that does have a primer, simply because you've got to pull enough times to suck all that air out of the fuel system before it'll start. Whereas if you have a primer bulb equipped saw, your primer pumping is what clears the air out of the lines, so that you don't have to pull the rope as many times. That's what it does. Alright, well, I hope you found this video informative, and please like and subscribe, and I'll see you next time.